How exactly games can, or should, convey meaning is a widely debated topic. Some believe that meaning should be relegated purely to the emergent qualities of gameplay systems. Papers, Please is a fantastic example of a meaningful gameplay system. It's hard to play that game and not have interesting insights. Systems are the core of what games are. However, I believe it's a mistake to relegate drama entirely to other mediums. I have serious doubts that meaning and depth conveyed using systems alone can come even remotely close to the depth of quality drama. You might not agree, but if there's any truth to that at all, then in order to talk about meaning in video games, it's important to have a cogent example of what a rich drama looks like. Then we can talk about meaning in games because we have something to compare it to. So today, I'm going to completely nerd out about Uncharted because I believe that Naughty Dog makes hands down the best traditional structured stories in the industry. That isn't to say that they have the solution for how to merge story and gameplay. I'm just talking about story today. What makes a good story? Why are some compelling? And why do some put you to sleep? I hope to answer some of that today. Oh, and be warned, I will be spoiling Uncharted. When you talk to somebody who's interested in the subject of what makes a good story, you'll often get a long, pedantic diatribe about theme and story structure. And I'm going to do a little bit of that today, by the way. I've learned the hard way, however, that if you do that to somebody who didn't like a given story in the first place, they find it, well, fucking annoying, condescending, and they feel like you're hallucinating to justify garbage. Why? Those people aren't just stupid or something. Human beings everywhere are captivated by interesting drama, and not everybody likes to psychoanalyze characters and break down messaging. That stuff's important, but it's secondary. Most importantly, people watch or play stories about characters that are struggling with challenges that they can understand and see as relevant to their own lives. The story structure part exists to ensure that said conflict is resolved in a meaningful way. Uncharted 4 is a fantastic example of this, so let's take a look. We start with Nathan Drake when he's young. He's an orphan with an authority problem. His main role model is his sly, morally gray brother, who he loves and emulates. We also see how growing up in his brother's shadow leaves Nate to be a young man who lives for adventure and steals for a living, hopelessly mixed up with sociopaths in a lifestyle that ultimately leads to the death of that same brother. Next, we're shown a different side of Nate. Time has passed and he's wiser and responsible. He's tried to build a secure and stable life for himself. He's tried to escape the insanity of his youth. However, something's wrong. He's not happy. His past still softly calls to him. He both yearns to return to his former lifestyle and is terrified by that impulse to the extent that he can't even admit it, not just to his wife, but probably even to himself. This isn't just a question of infidelity. Several times, Nate is offered an opportunity for a little adventure.
Nate, this is retirement money for the both of us, okay? I don't know about you, but I don't want to be working salvage when I'm 60. Do you?
Sure beats prison.
Including from his wife, and in all cases, he rejects it.
It doesn't sound that risky, all right? If it's just a permit.
No way.
You could call Sullivan. You haven't seen him in, what, 2 years?
Well, could we please drop this?
Okay, I just don't want you to not take it because of me.
I'm not taking it because of me, okay?
He's not just trying to maintain a promise to his wife. He probably made that promise because he thought he wanted it. He's trying to escape something that could kill him, or at least destroy the life that he built. Nate is doing something that most of us try at one point or another. He's trying to run away from a part of himself. If you liked Uncharted, hopefully what I'm saying doesn't seem like overanalysis. I'm simply stating what you already know. At this point, we can identify with Nate. We feel the tension in his situation, and we want to watch more to find out how the story ends, how his problem gets resolved. Why is that? Well, because it's relevant to us. He doesn't have a thief problem, he's got a human problem. It exists in anyone who's trying to ignore a part of themselves that they can't simply delete. Good stories find issues that are meaningful to many, regardless of the literal trappings. This is the most important aspect of storytelling because on this level, if a story is interesting to you, you get it. You don't have to analyze it to take it in. The fact that it interests you at all is evidence that on some level you find it meaningful. That isn't to say that any story will connect with everyone. The story in Uncharted is probably designed to connect with a slightly older audience. It doesn't matter. The point is this: if whatever given story really connects with you, you don't need to be verbally conscious of that. That's the power of a good story. Back to Uncharted. This brings us to step 2, which is story structure and literary depth. If Nate's conflict with himself is going to be expanded upon and ultimately resolved in a way that's satisfying for players, Naughty Dog has to have some idea of what they're trying to say.
Digna factus recipimus. We receive
the due rewards of our deeds.
Look at you.
It's a benefit of growing up in a Catholic orphanage. That's St. Dismas.
Yeah, the penitent thief. What's the connection?
There's no other basis for the simple act of editing without that. Why does one character exist in place of another? Why are some actions meaningful? What fits with the story and what doesn't? This is how a story reaches a more profound depth and meaning. Again, Uncharted excels at this. So, as promised, let's analyze. The festering part of Nate's disowned identity is given its first chance to take the wheel when his brother, thought dead, shows up out of the blue with a sob story and requesting Nathan's help.
Nathan, I'm in a lot of trouble here.
Nathan loves his brother and carries guilt, but that's an easy half-truth to tell himself. On some level, Nathan wants to be sucked back in.
The biggest pirate treasure of all time is within our grasp.
I thought this was about saving Sam.
This is where his relationship with Elena is relevant. Nate doesn't tell his wife what he's up to. Why? Well, it's not just because he made an arbitrary promise to her. It's also because on some level he thinks what he's doing is wrong. But he's losing control of himself, and he likes it, but he can't admit it. He knows that if he tells Elena what's up, she'll tell him what he doesn't want to admit to himself.
It's different this time. Oh my God. I have to save him. I don't even care about the treasure.
The look on your face when you walked into this room. If you're done lying to me, then you should stop lying to yourself.
Nate isn't simply unconscious of his behavior, and he's not simply lying. He's choosing to lie in order to remain unconscious to himself. In this way, Nate's dishonesty with his partner is the same thing as his dishonesty with himself. This is also very common and deeply human. In this way, the central conflict of the story is deepened and made real. We learn about ourselves while watching it. We feel Nathan's struggle with himself. We see ourselves in him, and we hope for a positive resolution to the struggle. One of the truly brilliant things about Uncharted 4 is that Elena and Sam, and to some extent Sully, represent the different parts of Nate that are at war with one another. Nathan and Elena are married, which at least must mean to be truthful with one another, to grow together as individuals.
No matter what it is, you're supposed to come to me so that we can work through it together, as a team.
This is a mirror for the highest aspect of the self, to be willing to bring consciousness to pain, and more specifically, this sort of chaotic, unintegrated nature of our existence.
Who are you? Come on. I'm me. Come on, it's me.
And that means having the courage to share what we're afraid of, to others or ourselves. It's impossible to grow otherwise. In this way, Nate's dishonesty with Elena is dishonesty with his highest self, the one thing that he needs to heal, the part of himself that he ironically struggles to selfishly protect.
I guess I was, protecting myself. You know?
Instead, Nathan chooses to act out that part of himself in secret with his long-lost brother, who's a perfect link to the other parts of himself. His guilt.
He's been stuck in there for 15 years, and it's because of me.
Shame.
He said that Dad dumped us here because we're worthless, and Mom is in hell because...
Nathan, come on.
Insecurity.
What do you want me to do?
You know my opinion.
I'm not ready to give up on him yet.
And isolation.
You and me. No offense to these guys, but they don't get it.
Nathan's entire identity was concocted to cover this up, which is finally revealed only at Nate's lowest point when his self-deception game finally ruins him and he can't run anymore. It's hard to blame him. How could he admit that to himself? Why would his wife be any different? So he does what we all do with impossible things. He represses it, so it festers and fights to reemerge. And Nate's brother re-emerging in his life is like a trigger that pulls all of that shit forward. Nate's brother re-emerging is the same thing as that part of Nate re-emerging. Uncharted 4 centers around truthfulness, in my opinion. As Nate chooses a dishonest path, his life begins to fall into chaos. This is where the Sully character is also brilliant. As Nate begins to fall back into his old life, Sully comes with him. In my opinion, Sully is like Nate's conscience, or the wisdom that he's developed even inside of this weird, broken part of himself. He's the last voice of sanity. He represents the part of Nate that wants to arrest his plummeting and gain back control of his life.
How is Elena cool with all this? Oh, Jesus, kid. This is beginning to smell a whole lot like Wild Goose, kid. I thought this was about saving Sam. Hey, what are you doing? Go after her.
We're not done here.
Well, maybe we should be.
He's also constantly ignored and finally dismissed. Elena finds Nate, and for the first time, the rot festering inside of him is on display.
Was there ever a Malaysia job?
Nathan has one last opportunity to make the right choice. However, he dismisses his relationship to himself and his conscience, and now he is fucked. Without the part of himself that can bring consciousness to his behavior, Nate has nowhere to go but down. And at this point, you're really just hoping that he doesn't die. It's Nate's abandonment of the truth that dooms him. Eventually, it's revealed that Sam has been lying, and so Nathan has been operating on the surface of a big dishonesty bubble that is now burst. Big surprise, it turns out that when you choose to lie to yourself, you lose your ability to determine what reality is. Sam takes a bullet for Nate, which is significant, but we don't have time, and Nate now literally falls, almost to his death, where Elena finds him in the mud. We're shown a flashback where we're finally told the truth about Nathan's origin, and when we come back to present time, Nate is just finishing telling that same story to Elena, who's come to save him. In other words, at his lowest point, when he literally can't run anymore, he tells the truth to his wife. My favorite part about all of this isn't the journey that Nate goes through, it's what it must have taken Elena to come back to him. At Nate's lowest point, Elena shows him by example what he couldn't do for himself. The courage to show up and bring love and consciousness to a mess that you'd really rather not face. And she admits it was hard.
Thanks for saving me. Again.
I almost didn't this time.
It was Nathan's broken commitment that started his fall, and it's Elena holding that commitment despite the situation now being worse than it was that saves him. Elena chooses to bear a situation that's so much worse than when Nate first couldn't admit it to himself, and she still holds her commitment. In my opinion, she's the hero of the story. It's not clear that he deserves that.
What an asshole, right?
And the fact that she shows this to him is almost like divine grace, because it's the exact opposite behavior of the terrified, lost little boy that's been running Nate's body, and exactly what he needed to see. Nate is a lucky man. Why is he lucky? Because people in his life had a deeper commitment to the truth than he did, and when all was lost, it was the marriage vow that he made that held strong enough to save him. Think of what that means thematically, that a promise with another person to stay connected with the truth can save you, even when you've completely lost contact with it yourself. Think about what that says about the nature of the limited individual. Think about where that places the idea of personal truth as not entirely inside the purview of the person. Think about what that says about the importance of a committed, intimate relationship. Those are by no means simple ideas, and yet here they are, encoded in a game about shooting bad guys in the grass. It's unbelievably brilliant. There's a lot more to the story, but I think I made my point. This is what I mean by depth. So, let me put it to you like this. I've been thinking about this problem for a long time, and I simply cannot fathom how it would be possible to design an open system where something approximating this level of complexity could simply organically emerge. How on earth could you design a system that suggested these types of ideas as emergent qualities? It seems like an impossible goal. Thankfully, I don't think it's necessary, because it's quite possible to have meaningful drama merge with and support a game that's centered around a compelling set of challenges. It's our goal at Over the Moon to prove out one such possibility. Our solution, in the fall, is to design puzzles that have interesting premises and require specific types of thinking. That way, gameplay leads. Then, the drama comes in to try and contextualize and bring literary depth to something that's first and foremost about doing as opposed to watching. I'm under no illusion that this is the ultimate solution to the problem, but I think it captures a piece of it. And on February 13th, we launched that solution. The Fall Part 2 Unbound has been in development for a long time, and it's a lot of things to me. However, at its core, it's about trying to solve the problem I just outlined. So, if you like this video, chances are you'll like the game. Until next time, take care, and for the love of God, don't stop overanalyzing.